Commander Varric stood at the edge of the observation deck, a silhouette against the vastness of space. The deck overlooked a wasteland of shattered ships, remnants of both human and Rakari fleets. The battle had concluded, but the aftermath resembled the stillness that follows a violent storm, leaving behind utter destruction. He felt the weight of his responsibility as he surveyed the remnants of the conflict, each broken hull a story of bravery and sacrifice. Varric was a seasoned leader, having climbed the ranks of the Rakari military through sheer determination and skill. His sleek, armored exoskeleton shimmered under the dim lights, a testament to the enhancements he had received over the years. The Rakari were a proud warrior race, built for combat, and Varric embodied their ideals. However, as he stared out into the void, the specter of defeat haunted him. This battle, a seemingly straightforward confrontation, had taken a toll on him and his fleet. Lieutenant Karras flicked his mandibles in agitation, a gesture that Varric recognized all too well. "We underestimated them again," he remarked, frustration evident in his tone. Karras was a promising officer, but his inexperience often led him to impulsive conclusions. This was supposed to be straightforward. We had them surrounded and overwhelmed. They should have surrendered. Varric remained silent, his gaze fixed on the debris floating in the void. The silence between them grew heavy, laden with unspoken fears and doubts. "They should have, but they didn't," he replied finally, turning to Karras, his expression grim. "They had no chance, yet they fought back. They adapted faster than we could calculate. The Rakari had superior technology and numerical superiority, yet the humans had shown remarkable resilience." Varric's mind flashed back to the early days of the conflict when they had first encountered the humans. The initial skirmishes had been brief, almost amusing in their simplicity. The Rakari had underestimated their opponent, believing the humans would submit easily to the might of their armada. They were wrong. Karras's eyes darted towards the wreckage. Despite the clear advantage, 6 of their ships for every one of the humans' superior weaponry, they had not given up. Varric's voice hardened as he continued, "This is just the beginning. It's not over." Karras shifted uncomfortably, uncertainty etching lines on his face. "Are you suggesting the humans are preparing for something larger? We've decimated their fleet. They can't recover from this." His voice trembled slightly, a rare crack in the usually confident demeanor of a Rakari officer. Varric shook his head slowly, a stern look on his face. "Humans aren't like us. They're not defeated until they're dead." And even then, his voice trailed off, uncertainty creeping in. "I'm not convinced they've been beaten." Karras opened his mandibles to argue, but Varric raised a hand, silencing him. The memories of the recent battle flashed before his eyes, the fierce resistance, the way the humans had rallied against insurmountable odds. They had been outnumbered and outgunned, yet they fought like cornered beasts, driven by an instinct to survive. It was both admirable and infuriating. Meanwhile, on the fringes of the battle-scarred sector, Captain Mason cursed under his breath. His squad had barely managed to keep their battered corvette intact. With engines offline and half the ship vending atmosphere into the void, survival was uncertain. They had endured more than their fair share of trials, but this felt like a final stand. "What's our status?" he barked, attempting to stay focused as his fingers moved over the cracked console. The bridge was in disarray, alarms blared, and the faint glow of emergency lights flickered ominously. Mason had seen better days, but this was a new low. Sergeant Dawson coughed, smoke filling the cramped bridge. Shields are gone, engines are fried. Weapons are online, but we have no power to fire them. We're dead in the water. His voice was strained, betraying the fear that gripped them all. Mason gritted his teeth, recalling worse situations, though not by much. We can't call for help, and there's no way anyone's getting through this wreckage, Dawson added, his tone laced with resignation. Mason nodded, formulating a plan. Get me a manual override on the weapons. If we can't fly, we'll make sure no one else does. Dawson hesitated, but Mason's tone left no room for doubt. I said manual. As Dawson scrambled to reroute power, the rest of the crew worked desperately to keep the ship together. They had mere minutes, maybe seconds, before the Ricari would realize they were still a threat. The tension in the bridge was palpable, a mix of fear and determination. Mason glanced at the faces of his crew, each one etched with the weight of their circumstances. They had become a family, bound by the trials they faced together. He could see the flickering hope in their eyes, a desperate spark that refused to be extinguished. Through the viewport, Mason spotted the Ricari flagship drifting ominously in the distance, its hull reflecting the wreckage of the human fleet. The sight ignited a fierce resolve within him. They were waiting for a surrender that wouldn't come. Sir, Dawson called out, we have limited control. Mason stared at the flagship, knowing the odds were against them. But logic was irrelevant now. The survival of his crew and humanity was on the line. Target their bridge, he ordered, his voice steady. With what little we've got. The targeting system locked in, and the weapon charged for a final shot. Mason spoke, not to his crew, but to the void ahead. You might think we're down for the count, but you don't know us. The weapon fired, striking the Ricari flagship. Alarms blared as an explosion rocked the ship, sending Commander Varric tumbling from his command seat amidst the chaos. Smoke filled the air as he wiped blood from his face. Humans, he spat, realization dawning. They don't know when to stay down. Damage report. Varric shouted, pulling himself upright. The bridge flickered with failing lights, consoles sparking in disarray. Kara scrambled to assess the situation. The humans hit our primary bridge controls. We've lost helm control and our weapons are down. Auxiliary systems are barely operational. Kara's mandibles clicked nervously as he looked up. They're damaged, but they somehow managed to strike at the heart of the ship. Varric narrowed his eyes. The humans had no reason to be this effective. Get me a visual of their position. Karas tapped into the external cameras, revealing the human corvette drifting lifelessly in the distance, a thin trail of smoke escaping its hull. They're dead in space, Karas said, confusion creeping into his voice. No engines, no shields. How did they? It doesn't matter how, Varric cut him off sharply. What matters is that they did. This is what I'm trying to make you understand, Lieutenant. Humans don't need an advantage to be dangerous. Their true strength lies in their ability to achieve the impossible when they're desperate. Kara stiffened, the weight of Varric's words settling in. Should we finish them off, Commander? He asked, uncertain about the answer. Varric gazed out at the drifting ship, his expression cold. Not yet. They're teaching us something. I want to see how far they'll go. He straightened, brushing ash from his uniform. Get our repair teams on it. We'll use this as an opportunity to study them up close. On board the corvette, Captain Mason observed the Ricari flagship struggling to recover. His mind raced. They had one shot left to take down that massive ship. "Dawson, how are we looking?" he asked, already knowing the answer. Dawson slammed his fist against the control panel, frustration evident. "We've got one torpedo left, but no power to fire it. It's just sitting there, useless." Mason nodded, a plan forming. "We don't need power to fire it. We just need to deliver it." "Deliver it? What are you?" Dawson's eyes widened in realization. "You're not thinking." "Yeah, I am," Mason interrupted, his tone final. "We're going to ram it straight into their reactor." Uneasy glances exchanged among the bridge crew. "You'll kill us all," Dawson said quietly, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. "Maybe," Mason admitted, "but we'll take them down with us, and right now, that's worth it." He tapped a few controls, rerouting the last bit of power to the engines. They flickered unweakly, barely enough to propel them forward. "Set a course," he ordered, "straight for their reactor." Kara, observing from the viewport, noticed something peculiar. "Commander," he called out, uncertainty in his voice, "they're moving." Varric glanced up from the repair reports. "Moving? Impossible. They have no. They're coming straight for us." Kara's interrupted, alarm evident in his voice. "It's not much, but they're accelerating. Lock down the ship." Varric commanded, adrenaline coursing through him. The bridge erupted into chaos as crew members scrambled to respond. Mason's heart raced as the corvette drew nearer to the Ricari flagship. He could feel the heat of determination coursing through his veins. "Hold on," he shouted, gripping the console. The Ricari flagship loomed larger, a behemoth against the starry backdrop. Varric struggled to regain control, but the human ship was relentless. "Prepare for impact," he ordered, but it was too late. The corvette collided with the flagship, an explosion of light and force. Metal screamed as the corvette breached the hull, plummeting toward the heart of the Ricari ship. Mason could barely comprehend the chaos. It was a split second of madness. As the blast reverberated through the flagship, Varric was thrown from his seat again, crashing against the bulkhead. The world spun around him as alarms wailed. He could hear the sound of screaming, his crew losing control. "Report," he shouted, struggling to his feet. Kara staggered back, his antennae twitching in panic. "The reactor. It's destabilizing." Varric gritted his teeth. "Get everyone to the escape pods. We need to abandon ship." "Commander, we can't leave. We can still salvage the ship." Karas pleaded, desperation evident in his voice. "Leave!" Varric's command was sharp, cutting through the chaos. He moved quickly to the escape pods, shoving crew members inside, urging them to flee before it was too late. As the last pod launched, Varric hesitated, his gaze drawn back to the control room. He had fought for his people, led them through countless battles. But now, with the ship collapsing around him, he faced an insurmountable choice. In the fading light, he looked out at the swirling debris of the battlefield. The humans had proven to be unpredictable, and in their unpredictability lay a strength he had yet to comprehend. He activated the self-destruct sequence, a last-ditch effort to take down the corvette and any remaining humans aboard. The countdown began. 15 seconds. Kara shouted, panic creeping into his voice. Varric took a deep breath, feeling the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. "We go out fighting," he declared, voice steady, determination surging through him. "We'll make sure they remember this day." As the countdown neared 0, he felt a sense of calm wash over him. He had given everything for his people, and even in death, he would not let the humans claim victory easily. With the final seconds ticking down, Varric braced himself against the control panel, preparing for the inevitable. The blast would reverberate through the void, a message that the Rakari would not be forgotten. In the days that followed the battle, the universe felt different. The surviving Rakari fled to the fringes, nursing their wounds. Yet whispers of the humans began to circulate, tales of their resilience echoing through the ranks of the Rakari military. Mason and his crew had survived the impact, barely escaping the engulfing flames of the flagship's destruction. They had fought, they had lost, and yet they remained standing. In the wreckage of their own ship, they found hope, a chance to regroup and rebuild. The tales of bravery would spread among the human ranks, tales of a crew that stood defiant against overwhelming odds. They had faced the Rakari head-on, proving that survival was not just a matter of technology but the will to fight. As the years unfolded, the conflict between the Rakari and humanity evolved. What began as a struggle for survival transformed into an alliance forged through understanding. The scars of battle became a distant memory, replaced by a shared purpose. Commander Varric's legacy lived on, a reminder of the relentless spirit of both races. The battle had shaped their destinies, but in its aftermath, they found a new path, one that would lead to unity rather than destruction. And as the stars twinkled in the vast expanse of space, they bore witness to the dawn of a new era, where understanding and resilience intertwine, shaping the future for both Rakari and humanity alike.